The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Hi, Shannon's having some technical problems, so she's just rebooting her computer. So she kept cutting out, and we couldn't really understand what she was saying. So I've asked her to just quickly reboot her computer, and she'll be back on in a couple of minutes, hopefully. How are you, anyway?
I'm doing pretty good. I was just at the Holistic Fair here in Dallas, actually here in Richardson. And I had an amazing time. You know, I sort of checked out all of these different booths, and I got this Aurora healing session, which they used crystals and essentially crystals and lights to heal your aura, your chakras. So I have just had a session of that and feel amazing.
All right, that sounds good. Yeah, I did see it on Facebook. You put a video up there.
Yes, you know, I was over there with my friend's kids and little kid, and we did an adventure at finding him some crystals. So I really had a good time.
While we're waiting for Shannon to come back on, I could make a quick announcement about my conference, which is still going ahead. I know I haven't provided any updates in the last few weeks about AwakeOn. But at the moment, I've booked the dates of November the 11th and November the 12th. And the conference will be held over that weekend. At the moment, I have about 10 speakers, including yourself, Sarah, I know.
I will be happy to be there, and I'll enjoy speaking. It'll be lovely.
Yeah, and next week I will be properly announcing the dates and the ticket prices.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I thought I lost you for a second. I'm just arriving home right now.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
You called me and I was in the car. We had barely driven up.
All right. Yeah, I thought I'll call you while Shannon is rebooting her computer. Yeah. I was just saying next week I will be announcing the dates, the speakers and ticket prices, etc. And I'll be updating the website with all of that information next week, hopefully. I just thought I'd just make that quick announcement while we're waiting for Shannon to come back on. And I can see that she's just come online. So let me just see if I can add her now.
So was Shannon able to speak about how she, started with all of this and how she was, linked up to me?
No, she was just talking a little bit about her background, where she grew up, and her family. And we're going to get into that when she comes back online, hopefully.
Technical errors are always an issue, you know that. I can't get some things in my house, like my vacuum, to work. I think I blew the vacuum.
It's ringing, but she's not answering, so I'm not sure what's going on here.
I'll just try to fill in a bit here. So I became in contact with Shannon through Sean Stone, and I got this call, and he went...
Shannon, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Shannon.
Hello,
How are you?
Shannon.
Hi. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm on my laptop.
I can hear you well.
I can hear you fine at the moment, yeah.
Okay.
So Sarah was just explaining how she met you.
Oh,
I was just explaining how we, got into contact, and it was because of Sean, and how I got this very lovely call, and you were on the other end, and he was on one end, and we just chatted about a lot of different stuff, symbolism and numbers, and even, things in movies. And it was quite amazing. I could see you were very, very gifted.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was really weird because when I seen him on, I think it was Lip TV, it was almost a year and a half or more ago, and explained he was explaining how the movies were on a loop in like alchemical in nature, and
Hmm.
I knew that what he was saying had a lot of truth to it, so I tweeted him and said, you know, what you're saying is right. The Jupiter 42, a lot of the alchemical, it's all there. And I asked if I could contact him because I really feel that he would be able to contact these other people, which he has, like he's had Jay Dyer and stuff on, right? And
Hmm.
I know that there's this group of people that they're seeing these codes and they're seeing it also play out. And he added you to the call, and it was just so funny because my friends that I hang out in the hangouts with, they know I'm obsessed with this whole a dam thing, and that there might be a future event with related to a dam.
Mm.
And then when he added Sarah and her name was Adams, I was laughing. You know, I was like, "Oh, that's so funny," because I'm literally obsessed with that name right now.
Well, and atom is a code for atom to ATOM, which is quite interesting. And then a dam, like a dam of information, what a dam of water, a dam holds the water back. Does that make sense? It's a gate almost. And
Yes.
water is associated with emotion, and emotion is often associated with knowledge. I believe that our water here on Earth holds a lot of energetic knowledge. So it's quite interesting how you put that together, because then it comes into the tarot card to the high priestess, where you have on each side of her, you've got the towers, and she's sitting in the middle of the towers. So it is quite interesting.
Yeah, and have you guys ever seen Jay Widener's show called, it was a documentary he did called Kubrick's Odyssey, all about Space Odyssey and the monolith?
No, I haven't seen that. I have seen the movie. Um, I've seen most of Kubrick's movies.
Okay,
I
well,
I
have you?
haven't.
Oh, okay. Well, Jay Widener, he did a documentary on Stanley Kubrick, on the Space Odyssey one specifically, not the Shining one. And he was explaining how the audience, they're watching 2001 Space Odyssey, and while they're watching it, what they're really watching is the monolith itself. The screen, the movie screen itself is the Philosopher's Stone. It is the monolith. And they're emotionally being changed. And the magicians, and how humanity constantly changes through this stone, through this cube, right?
Right.
And they go through this change while they're looking or touching the monolith, and the audience through the movie screen is touching the monolith. And Hollywood is making its gold from the Philosopher's Stone because everybody's paying for that monolith, right? They're paying to go view the monolith, and
Right. Yeah.
Hollywood's making its gold. And I'm like, he just nailed it. He absolutely just nailed what was going on. And Stanley Kubrick's, when he was showing us that in Space Odyssey, one of the other things that Jay had picked up on was the fact that in the movie it says Hilton, Hilton, Hilton. And what we had at 9/11 was the Millennium Hilton, the black cube right between the towers,
Yeah.
right? And so we were all focused on the monolith on 9/11.
Which
And
was a gateway, a portal. Go ahead.
right, exactly. So we have a gateway, a portal exactly happening with 9/11. And I go, this is crazy because I know in my heart that what he's saying is actually correct. And I had watched before, it was on Barely Human 11's channel, the whole Back to the Future thing. But before they had incorporated the Stanley Kubrick angle and the monolith, originally the Back to the Future narrative, when they were going through the movie, one of the things that they were discussing, or the person doing the explanation about the movie was explaining, was the Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades were going to take out Saturn, Kronos, the clock, the time, right? So the three brothers are going to defeat Zeus. And I'm looking and I go, this is exact. What's going on is, not only are they using the mythology of Zeus and the three brothers going after Kronos, the clock tower, it's time, they're doing it while giving the 9/11 warning. And at the same time, we're actually being given alignments, but we don't really realize that we're actually being given alignments. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know how I want to explain this is, it's a lot of information to try to convey.
So if I can go ahead and just jump in here. The 9/11 was a gateway. Now you've got the towers again, the twin towers, which the high priestess card. So you've got the towers, which is a portal. And again, they just discovered that humanity, that humans are interacting with 11 other dimensions. So it was a gateway into those 11 other dimensions. And it was also a portal where they could create what they wanted using people, because people are creators. Each person is a creator, whether they believe it or not. So you have the whole thing of the 11 dimensions that plays into effect with the whole 9/11. Also in Back to the Future, there's the twin, I think the twin something in there. I'm not sure if it's, yes. So they were showing that. And it's quite interesting, because to go on with Stanley Kubrick, you have The Shining. And The Shining, or the Shining One, who's the Shining One in the Bible? The bright one, it's Lucifer. And the Shining, the hotel represents a time, a quote, time prison. It's almost like the same as the Matrix. The Shining, that hotel is the Matrix. It represents the Matrix. It represents a quite high being who got lost within because of all the illusions, all of the illusions, what wasn't real. If you remember, he goes absolutely crazy on because of all of the ghost and the different stuff that wasn't real. So essentially, The Shining is about the fall, or the bright one being entrapped in the Matrix system. So these movies are quite interesting of what they are telling humanity, and they're just passing them off as thrillers, as comedies or different stuff, all these different movies, but they're reflecting back everything that's happening, even in the other realms.
Right. But and the thing is the reason that I believe that the movies deal with all of this is because the movies are dealing with a clock. They're dealing with time. They're dealing with the stars. They're dealing with the constellations. And the reason that I came to that conclusion was, again, growing up and listening to everybody trying to teach me about the Bible and stuff, I would always say to people, and I never would let anybody trap me into their way of thinking. I always said to people, I said, look, I don't believe anybody's telling me the truth on this, because I think everybody's got a preconceived notion. Mm-hmm. And so I just said, I believe that there's something very genuine and true in the Bible. I just haven't figured out what it is. So when the atheists would tell me one thing, or the Christians would tell me another, I never wanted to be dismissive of them. I would listen to what they had to say. But one of the things I started to see was, as time progressed, and especially the recent years, is that the Bible's a clock. What we got when we look at Revelations 9/11 is we have on that date a very specific star alignment. And it happened on September 11th, 2001. That was the exact star alignment. If you go read Revelations, this is how I can visually tell you how to do it. If you go read Revelations 9 and you pull up the stellarium chart, star chart, what you want to do is you want to set the the viewing sky to Jerusalem, but you want to set the time zone to Eastern Standard Time. So what you'll see is the twins are falling in the west with Jupiter, the fifth planet from the sun, sinking. And in Revelations 9, it tells you that the fifth star, the fifth trumpet sounded and it falls. The fifth star falls with the key and the scorpions rise. And above them is Apollyon. Well, if you look at that exact alignment that very morning, that's exactly what happened. Jupiter, the key, just fell in the west with the twins. The scorpions just rose, and Apollyon was riding over top of them. And it was that exact alignment at the very exact time that they say the first plane hit.
So, and then it's funny because you have the whole, movie about Jupiter Ascended coming that came out. So that's tied into that too, and that just shows how they're using humanity, the soul energy of humanity that shows so much. It's interesting how these movies are just lined up with everything.
Yeah, because they're all telling that's what I like trying to figure out. And I tried to explain this to somebody this way. Have you ever cut open a golf ball? Because if you
haven't. So yet I haven't. Yeah, I've done a lot of things, but not that.
Okay. Well, if you cut open a golf ball, inside the golf ball is a bunch of rubber bands, a bunch of rubber and strands, and you keep pulling on each strand until you find the one rubber band that unravels it all.
Yes.
And so for me,
it's almost like the sword in the stone.
Right. So for me, what I'm seeing and what I was seeing through, thank goodness that some people were really into synchromysticism and that they were experts in movies, because when some of them were honoring the stars, like giving them recognition for their archetypal character in the movies. But I started seeing, wait a minute, are they, like, I would go and I would see, are they correct? And what I mean by that is, there's one person that sea lion or Celion, or it's an anagram for like Lois Lane or something else. Anyways, they had a video about Leonardo DiCaprio. In every single movie, in every single thing Leonardo is in, the pivotal element for him is water. Now, it cannot be that there's just water randomly in a movie. If they're going to be an archetypal representation of anything in the alchemical or the constellations, it must be consistent, and it's got to be that it's at their introduction of who they are, or a very pivotal role. So if you think about Leonardo DiCaprio specifically, it's very easy. You think Titanic, he sinks, he dies. You think Wolf of Wall Street, everything's going
The
good.
War of the Titans, Titanic, go ahead.
Yeah, and he goes out onto the boat in the Wolf of Wall Street, and that's when everything gets turned upside down on him. The one Inception, when he's on the beach. Gangs of New York, his actual character's name is Amsterdam. Even in protest.
Damn.
Yeah, even in
go ahead.
Yeah, even in protest, it was his protesting was flood New York. Everything for him that they use him for is water related. Now, why is that important? Because then if you go to John C. Reilly and you look, and his is specifically the Jesus Christ figure as far as Jupiter goes, that Christ figure, because there's different Christ figures. The 42, the Jupiter, that Christ figure, it is consistent in every single one of his movies.
The 42.
Right, he's related to Jupiter, Zeus, number 5. His thing, the resurrection, right? Life after Beth. I just name any movie, and I can just probably whip off what made him the Jesus link. And again, it just can't be at any given time, because then the code means nothing. If I'm just looking at a movie and I go, oh yeah, there's water. No, it can't be that way. It's got to be very specific. And what I started to realize was, wait a minute, why would you have all these archetypal figures in the movies? And again, they even tell us who they are, the movie stars. And why would you have them there? And why is it so specific? And I started realizing it's a code. Mm-hmm. And if you look at, like, okay, do you remember the movie Enemy of the State with Will
Smith, yeah.
Will Smith and Gene Hackman?
Yeah.
Okay, now that came out, I believe it was in 1998, and they give us see, I don't have my other computer up, so, and I'm thinking about it, trying to restart. The Angelina Jolie's dad, what's his name?
John Voight.
Yes,
John Voight.
John Voight. Yes. Okay, so John Voight is the NSA guy, right? And they're going to go after, he's going after Will Smith and Gene Hackman. And the whole movie is based on a premise that something's going to happen, and something happens in the security, and then the NSA is going to start intruding upon all of our lives and everything, right? But if you go to the very scene where Will Smith and Gene Hackman are in the warehouse, Gene Hackman, they're looking at John Voight's ID, his birthday.
It's September 11.
Right? His birthday is September 11. And then what's the very next thing that happens? They blow the building up and collapse it in its own footprint.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They blow up the warehouse.
And that was 3 years before 9/11.
Right, exactly. But if you go movie to movie to movie, and once you start to realize that this is...
Can I jump in here? It's really interesting. Guess what? In Hancock, in the movie Hancock, Will Smith, he plays Horace. So it's very interesting in there. He's playing where, they're after him.
Yeah. Yeah. These characters. Okay. Another great example. So, all right. So imagine you're trying to portray information to an elite few. Okay, and I say a very elite few. I'm not saying all the actors know. I'm not saying every writer knows. But let's just say you did write a script and you wanted to present it to Hollywood, and say you want to go borrow some money from Warner Brothers, right? Warner Brothers might love the script and be like, yeah. And then they're like, oh, okay, well, you got this list of actors. Well, maybe that actor doesn't really fit that role. Maybe the person who wrote it doesn't know that their code isn't going to fit there. So they might say, well, we'll give you the money, but we don't want you to use that actor for the lead.
Right.
Or maybe the actor, maybe they don't really want to say anything to the script writer, and maybe they contact an actor and they say, well, I can't do it. Well, maybe the studio called them up and said, don't do it. We want somebody else to do it. If you really want the part in this other one, we recommend you don't do this one. So there's little ways of controlling a narrative without anybody else having to really know and partake. But I do feel that some of them do know because of the consistency and because so many of them are involved in other things. I do think that some of them understand them. It's a magician's trick.
They would have to be genetically able to tap into that because it's all about DNA and codes. What I wanted to hit on here is 42. You brought 42 up.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me? Sorry, I couldn't hear you for a second. You brought 42 up, and you said, sorry. Oh, Sean's calling me. Sorry. Are you guys still there?
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. Okay, so to go back to this whole 42 thing. I don't know recently if you saw, I did do a live stream on 42, the number 42, and why it's important. Now, do you know, I don't know if either one of you can Google real fast the Wikipedia page for the rainbow and 42 and read that out while I'm explaining this. That would be very awesome. So, I was doing a lot of research with my friend about minerals and how heavy metals, how they're making everybody toxic with heavy metals, and how the body, the system of the body it's basically, it's created out of light, and the cells, they're like solar panels, they charge, and when these heavy metals get in and clog up those little cells, those little solar panels that charge from light, and they reflect light out, then it affects the very soul energy of a person, because it doesn't charge their aura, it doesn't charge their chakras, and this is a huge issue. So we were talking about that, and there was a nice little article that had came out about, minerals, good minerals. And we were talking about how this article stated very well that there were 42, different light, how do you call it? The light within minerals. So I essentially realized that the whole 42 is connected to the cosmos, or to the real God, the divine energy or cosmic energy that's supposed to be running through everyone, that they have essentially cut off using all these toxins, because minerals contain these 42 light frequencies, which originally, if you look, even in the Torah, it's very encoded. There's these specific 42 frequencies. It's sort of all encoded, just like the Bible, and that's the true light, or the true God, or the true divine, force. Well, it's being cut off from us, and this is why 42 is very important. Now, if you look in the Bible, it says that it says about Joseph, how he had a coat of many colors, which was his chakra system. His aura had many colors in it. A lot of people, unhealthy people or sick people, have barely any colors in their aura. They have a lot of darker colors. He was a fully illuminated man. He had God running, God's source energy, cosmic energy running through him. He had those 42 light frequencies making him connected and to God. He walked with God. And whenever I do think the story of Joseph is about him being energy raped, because they were jealous. They did not have that in themselves. So they essentially energy raped him for that. To go on, it says that the angels in the Bible were luminous with many colors. There's a lot of different translations on this. So it's saying that their auroras were, their coats were of many colors too, which is the whole aura, and it having many colors. Again, if you look at the rainbow.
I've looked up the
Go ahead.
rainbow, and 42 is to do with 42 degrees. Basically, a rainbow, I'll just read, this is from the Wikipedia page. A rainbow is not located at a specific distance from the observer, but comes from an optical illusion caused by water droplets. Thus, a rainbow is not an object and cannot be physically approached. Indeed, it is impossible for an observer to see a rainbow from water droplets at any angle other than one of 42 degrees from the direction opposite the light source. And then it says here that the reason the returning light is most intense at 42 degrees is that this is the turning point. So it's like the light is hitting the outermost ring of the droplets, returns at less than 42 degrees. So it's like an angle where the rainbow is most intense, is at 42
Yes.
degrees.
Yeah,
So-
and go ahead.
So our souls are originally, before the fall of frequency, before the loss of color, and which is connected to vibration, which is connected to frequency, our souls were rainbow. We had our auras were rainbow, which allowed us to be multi-dimensional. This is why 42 is so important. This is why Joseph could walk with God, because he did have those 42 light frequencies. He had a coat, an aura of many colors, which allowed him to walk with God and speak with God. This is the whole 42 that keeps coming through right now. I was just looking at Selena Gomez's new, she's just done for Coach. She's just done a commercial for Coach, and it flashes the rainbow colors, and it flashes 42. And that, you think about Pink Floyd and how it hits the pyramid, the top of it hits the pyramid, the more top part. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Now, I do believe that, the whole Garden of Eden is within us. And when those energies were removed, those frequencies were removed, and they're being blocked off right now from humanity because they're scared that humanity awakens again and finds that they can walk with God every single day, and they would be empowered and multidimensional. It's being cut off, but it's quite interesting of how that's associated with the real God, or the true light, or this cosmic force that runs through everything. Now, this goes back that the sun, the Egyptians worship the sun, and they're saying that the sun has the whole spectrum of the rainbow. Even though you see one color, there's a full spectrum of rainbow colors within the sun.
Right. What's really funny is that my family crest is actually the rainbow.
Oh, how
Yeah. And 42 is
how
the
interesting.
yeah, like 42 is very important, very
So,
important number to me.
did you see the Grenfell, if that's how you pronounce it, tower that just
Yeah.
was? Yes. So the tower represents, again, the tower in tarot, which, it's a card that if you've done stupidity, it'll fall upon you. If you've done good works, it'll fall upon you. So for me, that tower is a warning to the elite. And there was an article that came out, and it talked about there was 42 people, that died in in a certain part of the building. But what really struck me was the 42, number 42, that came up with the tower. And 42 essentially, again, so, and then at the end, somebody on my profile kind of sent me, on my social media kind of sent me a picture of when they were spraying down the building. This beautiful rainbow had showed up on the side of the building. So we have 42 that just showed up right now. First we had the High Priestess tarot card with 9/11. Now we have the Tower Tarot card that showed up with the whole Grenfell Tower and the whole 42 and rainbow again. And I think that this is just a divine message saying, even though all this chaos, all this insanity, you can go within and you can find God within there, the real true divine God that flows through you, this divine energy, this divine cosmic force that is, omnipotent, omnipresent. And I think through this all, there are divine messages in these codes that are showing up, trying to say, humanity, I'm here. Look in the Bible. What did God give humanity to say? That it was the rainbow. God gave humanity the bow to keep his promise, as quote in the Bible, to humanity. He gave the bow and said, this is token to you. And I really, really feel that there's a lot of symbolism that just is trying to tell us all these different amazing divine things. And some people are picking it up, like you, Sherry, you're picking it up. And, it's always there,
Shannon, I wanted to ask
Shannon,
you,
sorry,
like,
Shannon.
Shannon, I wanted to ask
Yeah.
you, why do you think they're putting all these like hidden messages, symbols, and stuff in movies?
So
Like,
if you
is
go
there-
back,
Partially, go ahead.
yeah, so if you go back to the Future and and you really think about the movie, the reason it's a great movie to keep going back to is because it's pretty much all right there. And once you start learning about it, you can keep going back to it almost like a piece of reference material. Imagine that you know to speak the language of the stars. If you know how to speak this language of the stars, the alchemy, you're speaking the Torah, the Kabbalah, the Bible. It's all the same language. It doesn't matter which one they're worshiping. They're all speaking the same language. And cultures around the world, we're all speaking the language of the stars. And this is why we have the similarities. This is what Graham Hancock is onto when he's noticing how they build the temples and stuff, and he's seeing that they're aligned with the stars. Like, everybody's starting to realize, almost collectively in a way, that we're dealing with the language of the stars. Now, if you know to speak that language and it's something that you have understood and it's been around for thousands of years, how easy is it to predict stuff or make things happen, or to get people to follow the magician's trick if you're always talking in code? And when you try to say that to people, some people get upset, like, oh my God, I could never be duped like that, like, but it's really easy to understand when you go, in wartime, they speak in code. They have code talkers. And we are at war 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with people and an energy, both, not just an energy, but people and an energy that want to control us. They want a division. They speak a certain language, but then they play the magician and teach us other things. And that's why I was kind of trying to go through a little bit of the history of how I grew up and stuff, because I knew that the preachers, when they're standing up there ministering and when they're talking, I believe, not all of them, but I believe some of them clearly understand that this is what they're talking about. And yet at the same time, they're almost teaching a divisionist way of being, to make us think differently and behave differently, to where, like, Sarah was saying, we lower our frequency, but see, they're heightening theirs, and they're making millions and billions and trillions. When you think about it, they're just making a fortune. They have
They're
turned
stealing people's soul energy.
right. It's not just the financial, it is a soul energy, because we become invested in their entertainment, right? We become
Right.
invested in their ways of thinking. I don't wake up and think, oh, geez, let me go attack this country. I'm sure you don't wake up thinking that,
Yeah.
right?
Nobody
what
in
I
their
want
right
to,
mind would wake up thinking that.
You know?
what I want to understand, Shannon, is why would they put these codes in the movies? Is it almost like a blatant, in your face kind of,
So
here it is, we're trying to tell you something. If you're too stupid to know how to read it, then that's your problem.
I think they
Why
do.
is that
Yeah.
why they do it?
I think, well, I can't speak because I don't know, because I'm not, I mean, I don't know that world, but what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a group of people who are communicating events that are coming up and that they are going to come up, and they're giving people that are in the know warnings to those events. And if any of us happen to pick up on it, great. And they can't say that we weren't told.
Right. So if you know the code and how to work it out, you can predict future events. So you will know, like, if like an attack's going to happen, or a similar event to 9/11 is going to happen, if you watch a movie and you know how to decode it.
I believe that you can. I believe I'm not 100% sure here, and I don't want to be spreading any kind of fear, because I don't believe in that. I believe in trying to learn what's being used and just trying to understand it so that somebody doesn't have that control anymore over you, so that you can back up. So I don't want to spread any kind of fear in any way, but I do believe that that is the case. And it's even like, the movie Nonstop with Liam Neeson. He gets on the plane, and before he even speaks, he's like, he goes, I sit my seat, and before he even said it, I said 4B. I knew his seat was going to be 4B because that's 42. Like, there's just certain things that once you know who that star is, you can literally make a prediction about anything in that movie. You could sit there and say to somebody, I bet you that Keanu Reeves will be 100% linked to the Dog Star series in this movie. And you can prove that that's what it is. And they'll be like, oh, no, and bet him $10, you're going to win.
Mm.
You can bet him about the water with Leonardo Dicaprio, you're going to win. Now, if you can do that at a small scale, once you start understanding that, imagine what they're doing at the largest scales, where they're giving us through the Back to the Future and through Enemy of the State and everything. They're telling us exactly.
Trying to control time and reality. And sorry, I don't mean to cut you off here. They're trying to control time and reality so that they stay in the timelines where they benefit the most too. And another thing, just the universe decides to tell everybody, there's a nice verse in the Bible that says that the devil has to tell the truth, that every single, that if the truth is being told to humanity. And it reminds me, talking about Keanu Reeves, it reminds me in the movie The Devil's Advocate, if you remember well, when he looks at Satan or the devil or whatever you want to call him, and he goes, how did I not see this coming? And he goes, oh, I told you all along what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was telling you all along.
Yeah, exactly.
And they are telling us, they are literally telling us all along, nonstop. And Keanu Reeves is a very good marker if you're trying to pull up Stellarium and you want to learn something really cool on Keanu Reeves. The fact that he is the Dog Star, his archetypal figure is the Dog Star. He even had the band, right? He was in the band called Dog Star. And if you think about John Wick, the dog gets killed. He has all dog issues. He's always getting hit by cars. He has a problem on the stairs. Like, he's the one. And when they introduce you to him a lot, he's on the cross. Well, if you pull up Stellarium and you look at Sirius is directly across from the Crux, the constellation Crux. So it goes from,
Okay, we're just going to go to a commercial break, and we'll be back in a few minutes. If you guys just mute your microphones, thanks.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome back to The Divine Truth on Revolution Radio. Before we continue with the show, I'd just like to remind you that Revolution Radio is a listener-supported station. We do rely on your donations to keep us on air. So please do go to freedomslips.com and go to the Support Us section where you can make a one-off donation, or you can join our monthly support club where you can make a monthly donation starting at only $10, or you can buy one of our seed packs starting at only $60. And all of our seed packs contain non-GMO, non-hybrid heirloom seeds. So please do go to freedomslips.com and make a donation if you can. And now we'll return to the show. Hopefully we still have Sarah and Shannon on there. Are you guys there?
Yeah.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Okay. There was I spoke to Shannon like last month, and there's another thing I wanted to quickly touch on before we continue talking about the main subject of movies. Is Shannon has a sort of, I guess you would call, precognitive ability, in that she can pick up on things, before they happen. And she gave me a few examples last month. And the way I sort of explained this to her is that everybody has this ability. Everybody it's sort of like accessing, I don't know what you might call it, source, God, group consciousness. There's different words for it. But everybody has access to this group consciousness, and we pick up things like, like sometimes if you're thinking about someone and the phone rings and it's that person on the phone. Or
yes, like just what happened. We were talking about Sean.
Right.
Or if you have a dream about someone and you bump into them in the supermarket and you haven't seen them in years, these are not coincidences. These happen, because you're accessing like a group consciousness. All of our memories, our thoughts, everything that happens to us is all recorded like in this group. I don't really want to call it a group consciousness. That's probably the best word I can find to describe it. But it's also linked to what we're talking about the movies and things as well.
Right. Like when Sarah was saying, it's like the universe is letting us know and giving us information. And Sean had asked, he had asked me, do you think that Hollywood is making things happen, or do you think that there's a force or a hidden hand? And I said, well, if I'm honest, with my life experience, there is a force there. That is true. There's something else going on, because I'll give just one example. When I was 16 years old on my birthday, and by the way, I was born at the time of the equinox, and I was sitting at the beach, and of course, we were on mind-altering substances. And anyways, I was sitting there, and I said to my friends, I was having one of those moments where I said, everything happens for a reason. Can you guys still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I said, everything happens for a reason. And as soon as I said that, a bottle washed up on shore. And I grabbed the bottle, and there was a message in it, but it was a really nice bottle with a long neck, and I didn't want to break it because I thought how cool it is that this message washed up on shore as soon as I said everything happens for a reason. And I slept with the bottle, like holding it because I didn't want to break it or anything. And I brought it back, and I took my aunt, she had these long surgical tweezers, and I pulled the message out, and I opened up the message, and it said, everything happens for a reason. That was the actual message in the bottle.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, and from that point on, when I would get a feeling about something, I would pay attention to it. When I was in juvie, before they kicked me, I got kicked out of the state because I didn't have any parents to raise me. When I was in juvie, I was looking at the staff member, and the radio was just playing these songs. And I just looked at the staff member, and I said, "Oh, I'm getting out of here today." And he pulls up my record, and he goes, "No, you're not." And I go, no, I know it doesn't say I am, but I can tell I am. And I sounded crazy. I know I did. And he goes, "How do you know?" And I go, "Oh, the song's on the radio." And he's like, he's just thinking I'm crazy, right? Anyway, we all go back to our cells, and all of a sudden I hear my name being yelled out, Shannon, and they took me that day, and they kept bringing me to court 3 days in a row because they didn't want me stuck in the system because I didn't have any charges or anything. I just had nobody to care for me, and I was too old to be placed in foster homes in Hollywood. Most of the foster homes, I guess, were filled up, And so anyways, I called up that staff member when I got out, and I said, "I told you I was getting out." And he goes, "That really freaked me out." Like, it really freaked him out. But if you do listen, the universe, I do believe, talks. So when Sean asked that question, I had to be honest with him and say, yeah, okay, yeah, it's true. The universe does talk. But at the same time, I also believe that that the highest parts in the movie industry, okay, that they do stuff on purpose. That they do know what they're planning, that they do events on Earth to follow and fulfill prophecy.
Right.
And 9/11 to me was a perfect example. And while I'd like to blame just a dark force, which, sure, a dark or a force is contributing to their actions, I do believe that there's some,
what they're working for.
Right.
To keep the timelines that are lower timelines where humanity doesn't wake up enforced. I know because I know that Saturn is a time machine. It projects realities from a long time ago. There was a very ancient war, and Saturn was lost, and it's being used to project certain realities. Now, very interested in Beauty and the Beast. There's a nice decoding where it's all about her father who, quote, built this whole machine, which is like a clock system that includes the planets. It's all encoded in there. And, Beauty, she has all the codes to that whole system. So it's quite interesting, as I say, that I'm just looking over at my vitamin box that says code on it. So,
right. Yeah.
So
and it's funny that code.
Go ahead. So it's quite interesting, what they're aligning themselves to is definitely some darker energies that want to keep, humanity, feeding off of humanity, I believe, off of their soul energy. And, because you think about it too, a TV is like an altar in a way, and they're feeding off of humanity's soul energy, their souls, and keeping humanity asleep and trying to steer these timelines so negative timelines only happen, or the timelines that they want where the elite stay powerful and so on. It's almost, well, that's what's happening. That's what was happening in Back to the Future. If you remember right, Biff was tuning everything so he would just stay ultimately powerful.
Right. Biff, who represents Trump, right? Because that's who he is kind of based off of, is Donald Trump. And you have the thing is while what I was saying about when he asked that question was, I do recognize that there is this force, this other, I don't know how to put it into words, but something else going on. But at the same time, we have to also be able to hold people who are doing wrong things responsible. clearly there was people that did do things like set up actual explosions in the World Trade Center, and that's why the firefighters who through the monolith, through the TV, they got us to off focus, to not focus anymore on what the firefighters say. They tried to get us to focus on their theory, their pancake theory, and they were taking away from us that ability to really examine what the firefighters were actually saying and to ever hold anybody responsible. Do you see what I'm saying? So it isn't just that they're serving this dark force. Through this force and through this monolith, they then condition us to tell us not to look here, but to now look over there.
They hypnotize, yes.
Right. And
it's funny.
And,
it's funny. When I was watching 9/11, I was abroad when it happened. It looked almost like a movie. You know, like we're talking about movies. The 9/11 event didn't look, you know, it looked like it was some kind of movie being shown on TV. It didn't look real. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, it was
about
very
that.
surreal.
And it was only through really internet connection that a lot of people were able to go back and actually listen to the firefighters. And being in the conspiracy realm of things and looking at things through a bunch of conspiracy theory, one of the things that nobody can take away from that day is what the firemen themselves were experiencing. So no government explanation, which defies the firemen, no anything can defy their words saying there was explosion. The lobby was blown out. These are their words. You need to get back. There could be more explosions. Now, we can't take that from those firemen. But they keep trying to steer through that through the stone, through the cube. They try to steer us another way. So I want to be honest in discussion with people that while we're looking at things like this energy, this force, this knowingness that a lot of people are feeling now, and finally feeling like they can even talk about it, there is also bad actors doing bad things because they too use that force, that philosopher's stone, and they make bank off of it.
Yeah.
The false prophets.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I call them.
Yeah, they are. They are. And it was kind of funny too when he added you, because it was Shannon and Sarah. It was this, right? The S's going. That was kind of funny. And also just, you know, well, I'm not going to say when, but also the birthday, your birthday and my daughter's.
Oh, yes, my birthday, yes.
Right. You both have the same birthday, right? And you both,
yes.
And you both have 4/2 in your birthday.
Yes, the 42, yes.
Yeah, right.
And my aurora is rainbow, by the way. They were quite shocked when they took the picture. So it's rainbow, so it would have the 42 frequencies in it, light frequencies. So I have proof of that. So, you know, and it's really interesting because if we took pictures of these people's energies, we would find that a lot of the elite leaders were false prophets, that they have gray or black or red. They're overtaken by their red chakra. They have no balance. We would find that they're truly, you know, not, they should not be in power. They should not be ruling because they are not noble and dignified, even on a soul level. So it's quite interesting that hopefully in the future, you know, with this technology coming out, we can only, you know, elect leaders who are, you know, very in tune with their souls, with this divine force, which I call God, because that would change the world, and they would have compassion and empathy and caring for everybody rather than being, you know, just self-serving.
Yeah.
Shannon,
Go ahead, Shannon. Sorry, go ahead, Shannon. Go ahead, Shannon. Were you going to say something?
Oh, no. I was just agreeing with it would be really cool to be able to do that, you know? That would be something that would kind of be cool technology. Me being the suspicious one that I am, I would be like, are they rigging that? that technology, you know? So I would probably be sitting there thinking through it all, but it would be a really cool technology if they could do that.
Mm.
I think when you're really in tune, I see auroras. I even sense colors. And it's interesting. I was doing a whole session of these the other day. I was given free aurora readings, and people were asking me, how do you know? You're not even seeing me in person. I can sense, just like Taj we were talking about a while ago. I could sense, people's souls, the colors coming from their soul energy, from their field, even if they're on the other side of the world. And it's interesting how all these people come to me and tell me, well, this person, this leader, or this candidate is better than the other one. And I don't sense that, and I no matter how many people, even if they gang up on me and say, no, what they believe, it doesn't matter to me, because I can sense the real truth of the person that they're telling me about. And I sense that it's not what they're seeing with their human eyes. They're not seeing with their spiritual eyes. They're not in tune with their souls. They're not in tune. When you're not in tune with your soul, you're not in tune with the divine. And you can, just through using your visual, your two eyes, your human eyes, you can be fooled on every level. It's when your eyes filled with light and you're in tune with the divine, then you can see the true colors. And Max's mom, Vanessa, she's lovely. She always tells me she loves this song called True Colors, and that reminds me of seeing the true colors, or the true soul colors of a person, of whether they're in tune with the divine or not. And when you are awakened, you can tap into that. We don't even need technology. If you're awake enough, you don't need technology.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have pretty good instincts when it comes to people. I can usually pick up on, if people are saying one thing, if they mean something else, or if someone comes to me with good intentions or bad intentions, I can usually pick up on those, those little things. And I'm quite good at judging people as well. So it's,
I told you, Taj, you were a sage in a past life. You had to have been a sage, because you're just always so calm and so, very perceptive. You definitely are gifted.
I think it's something which everybody has. It's just that maybe my instincts are just more better tuned, or than most people. But I think everybody has these abilities.
Everybody has gifts, everybody does.
Has it, but a lot of the times people are told to ignore it.
Yeah.
Or they're told, oh, you're just being silly, or oh, that's just a coincidence, or that it's almost like we're told not to pay attention to it. But I do believe that if people pay attention to it, also saves their lives. But
I believe
it does, and I feel it makes them happier lives. It makes them lives where they feel more they feel compassion and caring for others, because I believe when people ignore that, they become more robotic.
Well, or something says, hey, you need to move your car over here and you're not paying any attention, and you ignore that voice and you don't move the car, right? But if you would have moved the car, you would have been saved the accident. And I've had that happen to me over and over again. I used to be a professional driver, and long before, and I'm not talking about like where you're driving down the road and then you happen to see the wheels of car move, so you react, because you're processing information a little bit in advance, and so you can make that prediction. I'm not talking about that kind of logical prediction, or knowingness because you're witnessing something, but like the one day we went to go see my real father. I had found him when I was 31, and my husband and my daughter. Anyways, we were at the bar, and I was dropping off my paperwork for the week for the company I worked for, and they were all meeting at a bar. And we pulled into the driveway, and I just looked at my daughter and my husband, and I said, "Listen, I'm going to walk into the bar, and I'm going to pay give them money, $100 to drink on as a thank you for letting me go on vacation to see my dad, because I wasn't due the time. And but when we go to leave, what's going to happen is I'm going to pull into the oncoming traffic lane. Like, I'm actually telling them this. I'm going to pull into the oncoming traffic lane, because what's going to happen is a car's going to be pulling out from the darkness, and it will hit your doors if I don't move the car. But don't worry, because no cars will be coming at us in the oncoming lane. Just don't panic. All I need you to do is be relaxed and make sure you're buckled up. And they go, okay. So I went into the bar. I was in there for a good 15 minutes. And we came out. I came out. I got in the car and I said, and I looked right at my daughter and Tim and I said, okay, you guys ready? And they're like, yeah. I go, okay, don't panic. And so we drive. I literally go into the oncoming lane. And as soon as I do, a car came barreling out of the darkness that would have hit their doors. And my daughter just goes, Mom, I don't know how you know that. And I just feel like if we're really paying attention, we will be geared towards preserving our life. And that's part of that.
Yeah. I think in a way you're sort of like given signs every day, but most people do ignore them. They're sort of taught to ignore. Like how many coincidences do you have to have before it's no longer a coincidence? I mean, there's so many coincidences that happen in your life. You can't ignore them and say, it's a coincidence. I mean,
I posted something interesting this morning on my Facebook, and it's in 1942. Alexis Carrel said, "I believe in the existence of God, in the immortality of the soul," and I believe that force that you're tuning into, Shannon, I do believe that it's just that it's God. And it will protect you no matter what. I know because this happens to me all the time. And it protects you. And also, it no matter what, death or anything, it will take care of you. It will always take care of you and keep you.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling. That is how I'm feeling. I feel like it's always telling you everything's okay. Oh, yeah, by the way, were you just looking at this? Oh, that's okay. We're going to let it's God, or however you want to describe this. I don't know how to describe it. I know that it's extreme force. I just don't know how to put it into words yet. And I know people say God or energy, or I haven't quite.
It's hard. God has no name.
I know that it's there, though. I definitely know that it's there. And but it's just so funny because like when my husband died, I was telling the guys in the hangout, I hang out with this wonderful group of people in a hangout, and I said to him, Tim really pissed me off when he didn't go to the Pink Floyd concert with me in Toronto. And I go, and I really wished he was there. And the moment I said that, the song Wish You Were Here came on the radio. Like the moment I said it. Or, it was funny, Taj, when you posted the thing about tonight, it turns out today would have been our 29th anniversary. Now, mind you, no need to say congratulations. We were not close as a married couple, but it would have been our 29th anniversary anyways today. But what was funny was I noticed that, and it was posted, and on my screen came up 11/11 as a group thing, some Facebook group or whatever, which happened to be what time he died, 11/11. Right. And I was like, okay, what are you communicating now? It's almost like it's like letting you know, hey, you are seeing the code and it's there. You're good. And there's no reason to be panicked or freaked out about it. You know what I mean? And also another thing is trying to make things fit. If it's legit, it's just going to be there. It's just going to fit.
Yeah. Do you also think that maybe you get codes not just from God, but from, loved ones who have passed away, or they try and communicate with you through messages and codes and that type of thing?
I don't really know, but I do tell them. I say, look, if you're there, that's cool, but whatever you do, don't touch me because I'll freak out. I do say that.
I'm having a bit too much interaction with ghosts then.
I'm like, please don't
I won't talk about my secret life here.
But yeah, there's definitely something there. And, in the atheist movement, what happened, because that was really big for a while, right?
Yeah.
It was like it was like people were trying to condition people to just get away from any feelings. Like, oh no, you can't feel that. You can't know that. Oh no, you got to wait for science to explain it. It's like, so you want me to wait my whole life for your issues? You know, I said, I can't do that. I got to live my life for me and what's happening. And I pay attention to what's happening, and it works out okay for me. I never get rich from it. I never, there's certain things I might not ever have from it, but somehow I'm provided for, you know.
My friend would come to me, tell me like what horses are going to win, who's going to win these fights.
Yes.
And I found out they were doing bets.
I did that last year. I won the trifecta and the superfecta in the Preakness last year. And
secret, Sarah. Hopefully nobody's listening.
Oh, you need to give me some horse names then, Sarah. I need to win some money.
And what was funny was I switched the first horse and the second horse, and I bet the pentafecta. And so you got to pick all 5 horses. I did pick all 5 horses. I picked the 5th one. So I won the superfecta and the trifecta. But then if I wouldn't have switched the first and second horse, I would have won the pentafecta too and did a clean sweep. And I said, you know, the universe, or I was probably geared to switching that because they probably would have been like, who's this person that just joined up and did a clean sweep? We better go look at them, you know? That would be a way of protecting me, you know? No, don't win any money. Don't win any extra money. That'll get them looking at you.
Yeah.
But
I also, Shannon, I wanted to talk to you about the reason that you actually contacted Sean Stone and what you're trying to do, because I know the whole decoding thing. There's a lot of decoding to do, and you want to like set up a group, don't you? And can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I contacted Sean because even though in the conspiracy world, contacting Sean would be considered probably like, oh, how could you be talking to people from Hollywood? You know what I mean? Like, you know, you do know what I mean, right? People will be like, oh my gosh, you're communicating. And they would see that as a bad thing, you know?
Yeah.
Again, I can't live my life according to other people's beliefs.
He's a very, very good soul, though. And he's not like Hollywood people in general. So that's what I think is good about him.
When I seen him talking, Sarah, honestly, when I seen him talking, I was like, my friend jokes with me and goes, you know, you're sounding a bit Manchurian Candidate, right? But I feel like there was something saying contact Sean Stone, because when he was saying that on Lip TV about the movies and the alchemical process, I was seeing exactly what he was talking about, but I was seeing it through the work of smart people that were paying attention, such as Jay Widener, Jay Dyer, Sea Lion or Celion, or however they say their name, the Barely Human video on 9/11 and all of that. Like, it was through other people's work as a whole. And I was like, I got to reach out to him, because I really do believe that there's a team of people, and I know who they are too. There's a team of people that could really be pulled together to put together an amazing documentary. It would probably have to be at least 5 hours, I would bet, of people that could put together an encompassing an entire, how do I want to say, an overall
of how this all works,
or how of how this works. And the talent is there, and the people that can see this stuff is there. I didn't hear it 5 years ago. I didn't hear it 10 years ago. But as more and more people are starting to fall towards this, or go towards this, that intuitiveness, that knowingness is starting to pick up. I have no other way to describe it, but a knowingness is starting to pick up. And I do believe that now is a time to do this, because we have something like, we got Donald Trump, who's portrayed as the Biff character, right? And his family crest is the Spear of Destiny. And if you look at all the movies right now, the King of Swords, the Avengers stuff with Loki and the Spear of Destiny and everything, because we're dealing with, I joke, me and my friend Ryan, we joke about the name of Bootez. I call him Boots, the constellation by Virgo. So he holds that iron rod. And this year on 9/23 on the equinox, when Revelations 12 happens, right? When that star alignment, let me put it that way, when that star alignment happens on Revelation that matches Revelations 12, that's what will be rising high in the sky. And on the horizon, what will be happening is the dog star, Sirius, Keanu Reeves, is going to be directly across from the crux, which is the growing area of Centaurus. Okay, so he's crucified on the crux as Saturn rises with the risen one, Ophiuchus. I never know how to say that name right. And they're on a direct line together on the horizon together. Okay, just below the Earth, and above them in a perfect triangle above them, or that's what I call it. It is a nice apex. The sun is at the apex as Jupiter is born, and the moon is at her feet with the crown of 12 stars, and the triangle is formed. And exactly 2 years later,
Jupiter's reborn.
And then exactly 2 years later, Jupiter takes the place of Saturn, because the mythology goes, right, that Jupiter defeats his father, Saturn. And exactly 2 years later, on the same date, it now becomes Jupiter on the crux with Sirius, with the sun as at the high point of the apex. And
I think that explains it all in the Gods of Egypt. That exact what you just told me, it explains it, except in characters in the Gods of Egypt.
Yeah, and so if you go back and you look at the movie Constantine, which is a great reference piece for this, if you go, this is kind of really creepy. I hope. Okay, so really quick. On February 11th, if you look on Google, on February 11th this year, which was the 42nd day of the year, they announced that one of the twins fell to their death at the Oculus Tower in the World Trade Center. So in the brand new World Trade Center, in the Oculus part of the Trade Center, a twin fell to her death on February 11th at 5:30 a.m. Okay? Now, if you go to the movie Constantine, what happens is a twin falls to her death, right? And that's the constant narrative, right? There's always something that happens to the twin.
Yeah, isn't it Rachel Weisz that plays in there? But Rachel Weisz also plays in The Mummy. She plays as the reincarnation of Nefertiti, if I remember right.
Right. Yeah. And she's the fallen twin. Now in the movie, you'll see a scene. I think I want to get this right, because again, I can't visually show you guys. I think it's around the 26-minute mark. The phones will start ringing.
That's my birthday too.
She writes the words. She writes the word Constantine, and the moment she writes the words, what happens is the phones ring. So let's say you were an elitist and you were waiting for a warning of any kind, okay, or you're communicating, and all of a sudden you're making popcorn and you're about to miss the scene. Well, they get your attention because they make sure they ring the phones. And once the phones ring, they show you the cross, and then you go from the cross to 9/11. It'll say it in the parking lot of the gas station. It'll say 9/11, and Keanu Reeves, the dog star, appears. And when he appears, the raven Corvus, the constellation Corvus, flies in front of his eyes. And the moment Corvus goes in front of the dog star's eyes, the sign warns, your time is running out, equinox. And then it says, buy a Chevy. And then he falls down to the ground, and the crab walks over his hand. First, the rat leaves in the rain because Sirius sits in front of Noah's Ark on the Milky Way. So the rats leave the sinking ship. So the rat comes across, and then the crab crawls over the top of his hand, because in that specific alignment, the crab is over him. Okay? So Sirius kicks it. Keanu Reeves kicks the crab. Then he goes and he meets with the Transformer character, that kid, I never can say his name right. And he goes to the bar, and the kid starts talking to him about Papa Midnight neutrality, which is Libra. And then he goes in and he sees Papa Midnight, and Papa Midnight's wearing the scorpion necklace, because that's the entire alignment from the twins to the scorpion is that exact alignment on this equinox, just as that was the exact alignment on 9/11 at the moment that they said the World Trade Center was hit. But you got to view it from the sky of Jerusalem because you're talking about a Bible from that area.
What's interesting is I arrived in England on the Grand Cross, and right before Max died, he said about the scorpion. He kept saying about the scorpions. He said he had been stung by a scorpion. He was talking about scorpion beings. And in the Bible, there's a whole thing about the scorpion, the scorpions that will torment men, or the beings that look like scorpions.
Yeah, in Revelations.
Yes. And I wonder if this isn't playing into what we're just explaining right now.
No, that's exactly, because what they're talking about, and the way I was able to figure that out was, well, one, because it also in Revelations talks about the hair of the woman and the teeth of the lion, because they're talking about Coma Berenices, the hair of Virgo, with the mouth of the lion's Leo. So they're giving you an exact alignment. Well, not only is the Bible giving you an exact alignment, okay, it's not just willy-nilly. Like that's the thing with that I was trying to find that common band to the golf ball, because a lot of people are arguing, oh, the horseman is Russia, the horseman is this, and I'm like, wait a minute. John is telling us, whoever John is, to me, the people who wrote the Bible are astronomers, because they are specifically dealing with the stars, and they're giving us exact alignments. They're not just willy-nilly giving us stuff. They're giving an exact alignment. And that's why it's so hard for me to convey this through a radio stage. You know what I mean? Through a radio. Whereas in a hangout, I can literally just show you and be like, here's this, this, and this. And that's one of the reasons why I want to see a group of people put together to make that happen, because I could make videos. I know how to make videos. I know how to do 3D modeling. My computer's not strong enough for it. I could just do all this stuff. But you know what happens is the moment that you do, they start giving you copyright strikes on YouTube, and you're still not going to get the message truly there. But if you have somebody who knows how to deal with all that other stuff, such as copyrights, how long to play the clips for, how to put it together and whatnot, then sure, you could put information together and actually give a piece to help people see. And then the more that people start to see that, the more they're like, you know what? I don't have to be playing in your traps anymore. I see your magician's hand now.
Yeah, we've covered quite a bit about 9/11, but there's also links to other events like Sandy Hook. You know, we talked about Sandy Hook. You know, do you want to explain, you know, some of the people who?
Yeah, that's really intense, Sandy Hook. And I know people debate all the other stuff as far as, you know, what happened with the children, all that. I would try to stay away from all of that, because I know that that's a sensitive subject. But what I noticed is the Colorado theater shooting specifically was the Batman movie, and it was Dark Knight Rises, and it was in 2012. Now, in 2012, Bomb Man, which somebody, I forget who did the video on it, but I think it was one of the Synchromysticism guys. The Bomb Man is the dark rift is within the Milky Way. It's by Sagittarius's bow and Ophiuchus's legs. Okay, so the Bomb Man rises there in the heart of the Milky Way, and that's why they put the light up to the sky, to the Milky Way, right? They're calling Bomb Man the Ba of the Milky Way. And what happens is in the Colorado theater shooting, they're showing Batman, but in that movie specifically, they have that map. And the map was created by Scott Getzinger. So it's alleged. I'm not sure that that's 100% a fact, but it is alleged that he was the prop master of that map. Now, Scott Getzinger died in April before the debut of the Colorado theater shooting. But the map specifically has Sandy Hook. And the Gordon, I forget his name, but
Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah,
Commissioner Gordon, yeah.
He points his finger directly to Sandy Hook. Now, that could just be Scott Getzinger acknowledging where he lives, right? But the reason I think it's more than that is because the whole Batman thing, again, is Adam and Adam West and Skull and Bones and 322 and all of that other stuff's going on within Batman. Now, all of a sudden, we have a shooting where we have the Colorado Theater shooting. They point on the map to Sandy Hook. Then all of a sudden, we have a Sandy Hook shooting by a guy named Adam. And then the other person that's living in Sandy Hook at the time is the author of the Hunger Games. And she is doing this whole thing of the Hunger Games. And what's the ultimate sacrifice in the Hunger Games is them going and blowing up a dam, right? And she lives there. And then on the very same map, when you follow the line that goes on the map that this Scott Getzinger might have made, who's now dead, we can't ask him any questions, the next marker on that map circles the street Titanic Street. Titanic supposedly sinks on April 15th. What's the very next event? The Boston bombing on April 15th.
Yeah.
Okay, so then follow the map some more, and you look, and it's got Route 35, but it's a waterway. And that Route 35 waterway passes by Scotus Street. What's another next event?
Skoda was the daughter of who too? Skoda was the daughter of Nefertiti, if I remember right, who went to Ireland or Scotland, something like that.
Scotus, Anthony Scalia, was killed. A lot of conspiracy people believe he was murdered because they found the pillow on his face. Yeah. Now, Route 35 does not run through Connecticut and New York. So why is Route 35 on a Connecticut, New York type map when, in fact, it runs to the right of where Anthony Scalia was killed or dead? So you have this map that says Sandy Hook. Then you have a shooting at Sandy Hook. Then it marks the next mark. It marks Titanic Street, and you have the Boston bombing on the same exact date. Then you have Route 35 passing by Scotus Street, and the Scotus gets killed. Now they can say he died, but I believe he was killed. Then it goes to where it turns into Route 15, and it branches off. Then we have the San Bernardino shootings, right where Route 15 splits off. And then it goes all the way across the top of New York through Red Hook, Fort Clinton, and all that. And I don't think we've seen that event yet. Or if there will be one, maybe, I'm falling flights of fancy, but it gives a star alignment, one that is impossible because there's 2 Marses or something in there. It also gives stock market items like flour, sugar, and then it gives conspiracy streets, Apollo, Armstrong, the moon, JFK, like it gives these other streets that are linked to conspiracies, and then another attack. Mm-hmm. So I can't, like me personally, I just can't ignore a map that just had 4 events all right there in alignment, like actually lined out by a guy that's dead after it's pointed out in the Colorado Theater shooting. And then the kid that supposedly does the killing, Ed Dam, is living in the town Sandy Hook that the Hunger Games author is living in, where her book is all about blowing up the dam. Like, do you see what I'm saying? So, and then Adam West just died this year, right? At 88.
Right, yeah. Yeah, he did, yeah.
Yeah. And so I just can't ignore all that, because I could ignore it to a certain degree if 9/11 hadn't happened. But see, 9/11 did happen. And they did follow the stars, and they did follow the Bible, and that alignment was exact when they did it. There was nothing left to chance. And just in case people weren't sure that it was the alignment, the 9/11 memorial itself lets you know that it was the alignment, because Revelations 9:11 tells you that they will have a bottomless pit with Apollyon over him. And what is the 9/11 memorial but 2 bottomless pits?
Right.
Right? Yeah. So they're not even leaving it for you to guess. It's right. They're just putting it right there.
So you're trying to get a group of people together who can help you to decode these movies, because you can't do, there's probably a lot of movies you haven't seen where, so
it's basically like trying to get a group of people together, like astrologers, scientists, whoever, who can understand the codes and decode it. You know,
Right.
so a whole group of people can decode, rather than you decoding one movie at a time. We can decode dozens of movies all in one go.
Right, and people who understand that even the buildings, the landmarks, everything is being built on lines, on star alignments, on, like, you've got Graham Hancock who understands that. You have Jay Dyer. There's so many individuals that understand different aspects, and you need a group. If you're going to try to figure this out, you really do need a group of intelligent individuals who have their own specialty that they're looking at, and where they can put their input, which is no different than what they do in, say, a storyboard room or anything else, right? They have all these different experts that are familiar with different stuff, putting things together, right? In Hollywood, that's what they're doing. And you know, people say, well, why do you want to get wrapped up to in their stuff, and maybe it's just a waste of your time. But I don't feel that trying to learn what language is being used to control people is a waste of my time personally. And maybe some do think it is, but I really enjoy learning about it, and I really enjoy sharing with people who want to see this information. And again, like I said, it is hard to do it on the radio, but I show people all the time. I go into Hangouts and I show people over and over. I've had my aunt here, I've had my neighbor here at my house, and I've showed them, and they're like, wow, this is just like, they go, you're right. I can actually see it. And when they see it with their own eyes, they go, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah. I think what you were doing, what you were saying before, you're already doing Hangouts, and I don't know, maybe at some point we could do a Hangout with Sarah and a group of our friends, so you can actually, because you need to really see this stuff on screen.
Yeah,
you know, it's very difficult to explain on a radio show. It's easier for you to explain what you're trying to say on a screen, so you can share your screen and actually show, you know, how it's all connected, because it's quite difficult for us on the radio to like picture it in our head exactly what you're saying with the star constellations and the codes and how it's all connected together.
Right, exactly. And they're all and what's so funny is all these people are all looking at the same thing, and they know it. You know, I think Jay Dyer, he knows that he's dealing with the stars. I know Graham Hancock knows he's dealing with stars. They already know. And
everything's playing out how it should, though. It was set up from a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
Very, very long ago. It's playing out.
Right.
It's going to be all okay for humanity.
Yeah, they're tuned into that. Like they're dialed in. They're dialed in, and people I've seen people really come down hard on, like, you know, say some pretty mean things to certain people who are dialing into that, and that's okay, because each person's got to do their own thing. But, you know, there really is a lot of intelligent, good people out there that are feeling this and knowing this and seeing this, and I can see that it's a hard thing to communicate. It really is.
Are there also codes like in other things, like in music videos, or in you know, I mean, have you looked at like decoding music or music videos, or even things like theater productions, or any, I don't know, you know, what other areas they could hide these codes in?
See, and that's a good point right there, because it could be books, music, all of that. But like, I don't read. I don't want to say it like that. I'm not ignorant. Like, I don't know how to read or anything. Reading, for some reason, to me is a natural, I don't know, it puts me to sleep. It's a natural hypnotizer for some reason. And no matter how much I want to read something, for some reason, it puts me into a state that makes me just want to go to sleep. And so I'm a very visual person. My husband was very, very much into books. And when I would talk to him about this stuff, he would say things like, oh, yeah, like this book. Like, he would know that stuff. So, yeah, it would be really good to have people that know the different genres of music, the different books. I was clueless even to genres of music until I was 13 and in rehab and started listening to other people's music, you know, because I grew up with just country music. But once you do understand it, and that's what they're talking about. I'll give you a good example. Adele's song, Rolling in the Deep. When you really start understanding that Argo, the ship, Noah's Ark, and that she's above the ark and she's watching, it's going to sink. Go ahead and make your home down there, but my home won't be shared. She can't share the home because she's at a different level in the sky, so she can't go in there. You see? And when you understand their positions and the archetypals that they're talking about in certain alignments and certain things going on, even if they don't understand it, whoever writes the song or puts it together or adds their pieces, they do. Somebody understands, because they can't be doing all of this only by the energy.
I think a lot of musicians, entertainers, they are connected to what we were talking about earlier, to source, God, or whatever, and that's where they get a lot of their lyrics. The lyrics, that they put into these songs, they don't just come to them out of thin air. It's almost like some of the greatest musicians in the world, probably do get these lyrics, from whatever you want to call it.
Into a force. There's different degrees to that force. The higher degree, like the 11 dimensions, the higher you go, the more you're going into the higher dimensions, the higher energies than the lower. So they're tapping in on some spectrum into a force. That's where they're getting that information.
Yeah, and they may not even know it. They may not even know that that's where they're getting it from. They just think, they're great musicians and they can come up with these lyrics on their own. But it's actually coming from somewhere else. That's the best way of explaining it, I think.
Yeah, there's definitely in some ways there's definitely an inspiration or something coming from other places. And I can't deny that, again, only because I've had my own things in life where I know that nobody told me to do a certain thing, but it was there, or you're, like you said, you're tuned into something, you just, and it's, as Sarah says, she says God, and I agree that that's a, definitely a term some use. I just don't know what to call it, but I do know what you're saying, and I agree that it's there.
It's probably the same even with books. Some of the greatest authors, the stories they come up with, you have to wonder, how do they come up with, like the Lord of the Rings and, Harry Potter and all that kind of, those books, they're incredible, books. But for someone to come up with those stories, it's incredible, really.
I had a really weird experience where one of my relatives owns where they're making trailers for books now. Little trailer shorts. Anyway, my father does not deal with technology at all. He doesn't have computers. He doesn't do the smartphones. His TV, I don't even think his TV actually works. He doesn't have cable, none of that. He's way up in the mountains. But she asked him if he would be in this film or in this trailer short because she needed hunters or shooters for this scene. And this guy from Iraq brought the weapons and stuff, and anyway, so my father's in camo. Well, he's telling me this, and I go, oh, well, I'll check it out. And I thought, how wild will that be if I see my father, who has no technology, on YouTube? Anyways, pull up YouTube. 2 days later, the video comes out, and he is at the 322 mark with a sniper rifle with one eye symbolism. And I'm like, how could that be? I'm like, I'm doomed. Nobody's ever going to trust me. Nobody's like, oh, forget it. He was right at that perfect mark. But, as it has it, it's just that way in sometimes, But when making billions of dollars off of buildings and stuff like they did on 9/11, that part, I don't think is just that. I think that is legit planning and doing bad things to the people.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think we're going to finish like any minute now. So,
okay.
I don't know if you want to give out information to how to contact you. If you do want people who may be able to help you, how do they contact you?
They can contact me through Influence Freedom on G+.
Okay.
Come on.
That's the end of the show. I'll put your contact details in the YouTube video so everyone can contact you. Okay.
Okay. Excellent.
All right.
Bye, you guys.
Okay, thank you, Shannon, and thank you, lovely Sarah, for coming on as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.